Tired of the hype about living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power.
Hi there, and welcome to this episode of Your Ultimate Life. This is the Thursday edition, which is the one about coaches, coaching and the rise of AI. And like all the others, I've got two guests instead of my normal one or zero. And we're talking with experienced and motivated coaches about this tool or dragon or whatever it is that's come into the world with breakneck speed over the last 2 or 3 years and really accelerating over the last year until now. Everybody's talking about it and everything else. And so we're going to explore that. And so welcome to the show, Johann. Welcome to the show, Sandy.
Thank you, Kellan.
Thank you
Honored
so
to
much.
be here.
Yeah, glad to have both of you. So we're just going to talk for maybe 40, 45 minutes about this topic. Johann, you're on my left side and I read left to right, so I'll start with you. When you think about AI as a coach, are you using it? If you are, what are you using it for? If you're not, why not? Like, just tell me what your relationship is with this thing right now.
For sure. So AI as a coach in our business has changed not only, it's changed our entire business trajectory and therefore changed our entire lives and probably has now helped create generational wealth. So that's where I'm going to start off. When, November 2022, when we first got access to ChatGPT, I thought, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. It's all, the whole world's knowledge synthesized at my fingertips and I can do anything. And as you said before, it's just growing and expanding. And, the old version is last month's version. Our time is collapsing so quickly in our expectations. And actually, somebody said in 2022, November, when somebody said, oh, I used AI to make me a picture of a dragon. And now, and they were like, oh, wow, look, it looks so cute. And now it's, hey, write me a PhD thesis on so-and-so. And then it's like, come on, AI, you can do better than that. Let's go. Our expectations of AI has increased dramatically. You asked, how do we use it? Has it changed and I said, it's changed our lives. The most profound thing that we did with AI was to tell it literally everything about our business, and I say our, it's my business partner and I, about where we want to be, where do we want to be at the end of our lives? What do we want to achieve? And it came back and it actually reverse engineered everything that we had to do in order to achieve those goals. And those goals got bigger. And then it said, hey, did you know that there's other people in the world who have done this before? And here's their pathways and this is what they've done and achieved. And then it mapped back literally KPIs. And we went, wow, this is interesting. And then we took that and we said, okay, in order to achieve goal number one, it knows everything about my organization, about my teams. So it's taken all of my teams. It's now assigned KPIs to each team member. And then I sent that to my general manager and I said, hey, what do you think about this? He goes, this is brilliant. We will hit our goals if everybody sticks to it, if the humans stick to it, right? And so we said, hey, every day we did an experiment. We're going to go AI first. So what the AI tells you to do, get that done first, because that's aligned with the business's goals. And the results, we have a team of 20 that create the output of 100 people. The business is growing exponentially thanks to AI. So yeah, I'll pass it back to you, but I can go into this topic for 8 hours about how we've done what we've done.
Well, it's clear that you're really excited about it and that it's made a profound change. Is there any aspect of this in terms of the teams? Like, one of the red flags that people raise is that, yeah, it can do all stuff faster and better, but when we let it do all of everything, then we as humans miss the process of our own becoming that would happen as we do these things. Is that any concern, or is what you have it do small enough or mundane or rote enough that concern is either irrelevant or bypassed?
So again, being in business for 21 years, if we had this if I had this 21 years ago when I started, my journey through the hardships and through everything else would have been reduced to, I could achieve everything in my 21 years in probably 2 years with the help of AI. And it's not skipping any of the lessons. It's helping educate me all day, every day. This thing is teaching me more and more about what I want to achieve, how I want to achieve it, examples of who's done it before, lessons, learning through their mistakes, and then creating our own pathway. And it's not a one-sided conversation where it's guiding us. It's you're putting yourself into it, saying, "Hey, this is where I want to." Actually, no, I don't agree with that. How about we do it this way? And it keeps iterating as you're going, and you create your own pathway. Not one, your AI, my AI, Sandy's AI. They're all different because of the context that's been programmed into them in the background from your goals, from your aspirations, and from your experiences. So, yeah.
Cool. Sandy, what about you? What are you using it for, if anything? And what is your relationship with this thing so far?
Not quite as enthusiastic as Johann, but I see
perfect
amazing capabilities. Part of my work for the last 20 years has been teaching entrepreneurial boot camps. And included in that is how do you want to live your life, not just how do you want to have a successful business. So a lot of what I've seen in AI is so powerful, as Johann said, for creating the plans, for helping people figure out their elevator pitches and the kind of copy it can write, and then you can optimize it and make it yours, but it can bring words that would take, a much longer time to figure out, is powerful and beautiful, and we laugh and we use it. But then I step back, and a lot of my work is, what do you want your life to look like? How do you want all of those different roles that you play to weave together into a thriving, healthy, connected life? And in that case, AI is not as useful because it really requires somebody to be quiet. It really requires someone to look inside. And while AI can help bring up, if you put in all your writings or everything else, some really good questions, the biggest pause I get with people, and my business is called 6 Minutes Daily, because about a decade ago, in teaching all this leadership stuff, I stepped back and said, let's figure out how to have a handful of minutes. You could have 5 minutes or 7, I don't care, but 6 is a very magical number to me. To just put your feet on the ground and center, to just breathe in and have intention and gratitude. And often people will come in coaching or in classes and say, I wanted to, but I didn't have time. And the biggest tears were, totally fine. Just tell me where you're running so fast to. And so my worry about AI is this speed and efficiency is great, but just making sure we step back and take the time of, what does effectiveness mean for each of us individually? And that's a lot of the work I do. And that gets into nature connection and inner connection and spirit connection and all of that stuff. So yes, and.
Yeah, yes, and is fine. So what are you using it for? I get and I share the observation, because the context, when I say 95% of coaches won't be able to make a living, then that says automatically, well, what are the other 5% going to be doing that's so different? And it has to do with the elements that AI can't do, which we'll talk about again in a minute. But what are you doing with it? What do you use it for?
So we look back. When people start developing their living vision, when they talk about, particularly with business or with a new product idea, how do you get the language down that's yours but better, that's, your dreams? And I think that's where AI can come in. If people have specific challenges on patterns that they have, on communication issues, you can put all that into AI and it can help you practice. I mean, I see it as incredibly supportive tactically. I see it as incredibly supportive at looking at all sorts of different models that might be more relevant to me versus Johann versus you. in terms of how we get over some of our fears. And that's great because my brain's getting old and it can't remember all of the specifics that AI can. I think that's where we use it, but we still step back to how do we pause, take that time, expand into what we want, into how we're feeling, into what our bodies are sensing. And all of that stuff is not as relevant with AI. I mean, that's the humanness, that's the nature, that's the cosmos, that's the bigger piece. And I guess the last piece I would say is I think there are ways that AI can tremendously help bring about financial wealth in a way that we wouldn't have seen all the pieces, which is awesome. And I also go back to, things I learned decades ago from Stephen Covey. If you really learn to lean into what you love, that money will come and AI will be a tool to help bring it about. But money in and of itself has never been shown to bring joy, happiness, and health without all of the other internal pieces.
The CEO of NVIDIA, he said something that was quoted in an article. He said that the creation of this staggering wealth is just getting started. He said we're about $200 billion worth of investment in what's going to turn out to be a $4 or $5 trillion industry, which is like 10%, somewhere between 5 and 10% of the possibility or less has even begun to be realized. So the opportunity to create unbelievable wealth is there. And, Johann, in compressing 20 years into 2, and your words, but better, Sandy, that you said, I've experienced certainly all of that in doing the 1,000 hours of research and so forth. Johann, do you see anything in this monster or this benevolent Puff the Magic Dragon, whatever it is, that can, and I'm talking about in the context of coaching, the coaching world, do you see anything that concerns you?
Concerns me? No. Enhances? Yes. So I mentor a lot of people, and through the mentorship, it's it's people starting off through to people who run tens of millions of dollars, revenue per year, etc. And it's enhancement. It enhances what they're doing. It helps me enhance my message and convey it to them. So, for example, I had somebody who said, "Hey, I'm going through this," and they literally wrote, I'm talking about paragraphs and paragraphs of what they're going through. And yes, this might be a little bit of cheating, but I'm sure we've all done it. Where I said, "Wow, that's a lot of information," and I'm talking voicemails about everything that they're going through, and I didn't know how to deal with it in a certain way. So I took that information and I said, "Hey, this is what's going on right now with my friend, and I really want this outcome. Can you help me engineer this outcome?" And it went through, it synthesized all the information and said, "Oh, cool," picked up on these certain points and said, "Lead the conversation this way," which I wouldn't have thought of. And I went, "Oh, wow, that's great." And so it helped me help that person. And now they're on a great path to where they are. So enhancement of who we are with the technology, it makes us better, makes us able to help these people quicker.
So I hear that, and that is one way to use it. I guess, are you, the thought that most coaches won't be able to make a living is where I started with this idea. And so I see the great gutting, as it were, of the coaching industry. And the reason I do is because my experience of both coaching schools and coaches in by and large is they talk about things that they've read somewhere, formulas, frameworks, tools, books, programs, and don't carry personal experience or truth. And up to now, you've been able to sort of limp along and make a little difference and a little money doing that. And that entire thing is going to disappear because AI is going to do it better and faster and in cuter language and way better than you ever could dream about. And so you've got nothing really to offer. So in that context, I see how you're using it to help. What do you think about that?
So I was going to say, is that a bad thing? Is that a bad thing that the people who have not lived it and who don't practice it and who haven't built successful businesses are there advising people. This is actually one of my it's one of my pet hates in the coaching business. I'm in a Facebook group, and on this Facebook group, I remember seeing this post which just made me go, "What is going on?" And it's this lady said, I finally got my first client," and everyone's there. She had 500 comments saying, "Congratulations, this is amazing, this is the best, wow." And then somebody said, "So what are you going to do now?" She goes, "I'm going to quit my job. My job is a janitor, and now I'm going to be advising a financial firm on how to do their marketing, do their business acquisition, all these things," which is from books that she's read. Not actually, she's never done this before, and now she's in charge of $1 million budget with somebody who she's built trust with, who now she gets to dictate and put their money into a certain pathway, which it's. I'm going to go on a gut feel again. This is a feel.
I could go on in that, and nothing against a 26-year-old or a 28-year-old who did it, but you and I mean, I'm 62. I've run businesses, I've built businesses, I've been up all night with kids. Like, there is something to the wisdom of experience. And I think it is a huge vulnerability in the coaching industry. And, Kellan and I laugh that I rarely call myself a coach, even though it's, what I do, I support, I build, but because of that.
Yep. Yeah, you go. Sorry, continue.
I think, a lot of my clients, as I said, they're startup clients, they're entrepreneurs, but I also run a program for young adults from the south and west sides of Chicago, for special needs kids, for a lot of people in the nonprofit world, reaching out and doing things across the globe. And a concern I have, and a huge strength, is this AI that has the capability to optimize and build efficiencies to those of us who are blessed enough to, be able to get education and blah, 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 to not leave so many behind. And, I was with someone earlier today on Zoom who's had a really tough life. I mean, trauma is an issue, and 2 little kids, and trying to make it. And again, I think AI can help, but that human connection, that work on how do we support trauma and overcoming trauma and building that strength. To me, what they need is human connection. What they need is to learn trust. And again, I'm biased, but I don't think deeply trusting and having a relationship with a computer is the same.
You're biased, Johann. You're biased, and so am I. So that's okay.
We're all biased, and we're here to have a great conversation, and the meeting of the minds, which allows different ideas to be shared. So, Sandy, on that, so I've had 6 men who were about to take their lives. It's the worst thing that you can do. And they were not going to talk to their friends. They were not going to talk to their spouses. They weren't going to talk to their family. They had decided that this is what they were going to do. They were calling to say their final goodbyes. And I said, "You don't need to talk to me about this." And I knew I could read between the lines as to where this has gone. By the way, this is over the last 3 months, not just 6 people in the last 3 days. And I said, "Hey, can I send you something and just have a chat with this bot?" And they came back. They're now still here. We've shaked hands, and they've said, "Thank you. That saved my life." They weren't not in a position to be. They didn't feel like any human could ever understand them. So that because humans come with, as altruistic as we are, as we want to be, we come with judgment. We come with bias, and there's shame associated with, hey, I have this business and it's failing. I don't know what to do. I think I'm just going to, reset and respawn somewhere else. Sorry, that's a gaming terminology. And so that's to do with that. So I think that creates a whole, we'll talk about that in a second, but I don't want to lose the train of thought that Kellan started off with, which is, hey, what happens to all the people who've never actually really done business, and what happens to those guys? And I said, hey, let's let them go and find their own genius somewhere else, because the people who are real business coaches or real coaches, they're the ones who are going to accelerate. They're going to be the most dangerous people in a good way, and they're going to add the most to humanity over the next decade, because they will be completely enhanced. Their messages will resonate. They will know how to get in front of those right people. They will be able to help more people than in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, than they have in their last 40 years, because of the technology that we have.
So there's two or three threads going on at the same time here. One is the ability to enhance and grow those who know how to use a tool. That's like saying we're going to give, Michelangelo and his cohorts a better chisel. Okay, good. And they're going to go do more cool stuff with their better chisel. On the other hand, what we were also talking about, and you said, so what if they're gone? I agree with you. My thesis that 95% of coaches won't be able to make a living, I agree. The answer is good. You shouldn't be coaching anyway. And there is a differentiator between those that will still be able to do it and not. And that's a second sort of thread. And the third thread that you raised also is the ability of these things to talk to people with empathetic and powerful and good language without the fear of judgments. Why people like talking to bartenders instead of friends, because there's less, judgment sort of there. So that's a different thing. And Sandy, you raised another thing too, which is the truth of the power of human connection, because we are our collective experience in humanness. So I agree with all of those things in their different spaces. We've got to keep a little track of them. I want to share something with you guys. And that is, as I was doing the research to write this book, I did an analysis of 11 existing coaching models. That's not all of them. And I said, how good are each of these models at achieving their outcomes? And it did whatever research it did and came back and gave me a table where they're strong, where they're weak, and everything. And then I asked, how vulnerable are they to AI in terms of what you can do and what you'll be able to do over the next year or two? And I was, I had my horizon of Christmas of next year, and it gave me a bunch of stuff. And it was a sort of a grim outlook. And so then I said to it, okay, fine. You're doing all this stuff really well. What do you suck at? What are you terrible at? What can't you do? What will you be terrible and not be able to do at all? And it gave me a list of things, and most of them had to do, Sandy, with exactly what you were talking about, the truth of human connection and everything. But the final thing that it said to me that stuck at me like everything, it just said, I can't bleed. And so, that was it. And I thought, okay, so clearly coaches that are left are going to have to be those who are the truth, who embody the truth of what they teach. And whether it is I've run a successful business or 10, and therefore my knowledge is embodied, or whether it's, as Sandy, as you've talked about, the wisening of years and experience and trauma and difficulty, where you refuse to be ruined but instead chose to be refined, brings an authenticity and power that words alone will never duplicate, because of the truth of energetics and connection and all that stuff. So if you sort of mix all that together, Sandy, I'll start with you this time. What do you think is the powerful differentiator for people that really want to stay in the people encouragement business, or blind spot protection service, or obstacle obliteration business, or anxiety annihilation business? I got like 13 of those funny names that I use for coaching, and I don't have the list in front of me, or I tell you all of them because they're pretty funny. But what's going to be the differentiator? What's going to really matter that's left?
I think it's the key that you brought up, and I laughed to myself over these last couple of years in terms of my teaching and my being and its authenticity to that stuff. So if you talk about the need to center oneself, if you talk about the need to, learn how to slow down a minute so you can see more pieces in that minute, if you talk about really learning how to look in someone's eyes and connect and feel that ability to bleed that we have the unique ability to as living and sentient beings. If you talk about connecting with nature and opening up all of our senses the way that our ancestors knew how to do in ways that we've often long forgotten, we have to do it. Like, we can't just get up in the morning and be 5 minutes behind and run and grab our coffee and Zoom. And I think those are the people. And again, whatever the success metrics are of businesses, so there's no value judgment, but if we're talking about things, we have to live them.
If we're talking
And
about
it's not
things,
always-
we have to live them.
Oh.
You finish. It's not what?
Oh, it's not always easy, at least for me.
It's not. I'll do that in a minute. Johann, it looks like you're exploding to say something. So go ahead.
No. Prompt me. Ask me the question. Prompt me. That's funny.
Well, the prompt me. All right, let me engineer a prompt here for a sec. So I, when you think about what chat does well, including the fact that the anonymity is a positive thing. There's studies that show that some people would rather talk to a bot than a therapist because of the judgment that we come with and some of that stuff. Even given all that, the question is, what is left? If I say 95% are going to be out of business or won't be able to make a living, and what the reason is because they've lived their whole lives talking about a thing instead of from the place of embodied truth, and all of that's going to be gone because Chatty will do it faster and better in a heartbeat, and that'll only get worse. And so what's left is that. So my question to you is, what's left for real coaching?
Yep. Great question. And I did a presentation to some of the top CEOs here in Australia. Now, when I went into this presentation, I thought that they would be really impressed with showing them how we can now condense 50 people's work into one person, and the efficiencies, the robotics, how their businesses are going to be completely autonomous. The franchises are going to run without any humans. And I actually had them. They were crying. And one of the guys, he runs one of the biggest companies in the room. I said, "Why are you crying?" He said, "What happens to the 800 families that I'm feeding every week?" And I was like, "Whoa, I need to, I've missed the mark here," because I thought I was talking about efficiency and, creating more profits and all that. But these guys actually care about their people. And unfortunately, the way the world is going, if you look at it this is my fingers on the pulse with this all day, every day. Robotics. Yesterday they announced that now you're going to have little robots in your home. They cost $20,000. You'll be able to talk to them. They're your companion. It becomes part of normal life. What happens to those 95% of people who won't have a job? It's actually not just across the coaching industry, it's across most industries that's going to happen, and because of robotics and AI powered together. And it's back when we first got technology. I'm going to go back to caveman days. We had the first person to invent a spear. It used to take 20 people to pull down a boar. Let's just imagine that. And now one guy with a spear just goes, boom, hey, guess what? It's gone. And now they're like, hey, what do I do with the rest of my day that I had allocated to going and hunting a boar? And they went and started doing other things and creating different parts of society, which then led to civilization. But that's a great story for technology, but that's when it's technology. This is AI. It's completely different. It's not just the Industrial Revolution. It's not mobile phone technology. It's actually changing the way we live. And so it's a massive shift. What happens to those 95% of people? No one actually knows. There is a big debate with the top people in the entire world. What do they do with all of these people who won't have a real purpose in society? And I'm not trying to offend anybody, but hey, the other day, ChatGPT announced that you can click a button and now it can go and reconcile all your Xero files. And 8 people in one company just got wiped out like that because they're doing the bookkeeping. And what do they do now? They've done that for 20 years. They got to go and get some other skill. But which skill are they going to get that's not going to be taken out by AI? So, in answer to your question, I don't have the answer.
Can I ask a
Sandy?
question though?
Yeah, please.
And it's a question that I ask every client, team, organization I work with. And it starts with, what is success? And, and then why? So what's success behind that success? And so I guess my question in coaching, and then I know you expanded it to others, is who are we building this world for? So like I get confused there's a difference between technology that enhances our ability to live and technology that wipes us out and makes us irrelevant. And yeah, I mean, I don't know.
So in answer to your question, it comes down to cultures. It comes down to values. So we're going way bigger than just the coaching industry here. We're talking about civilization as a whole, and different cultures see this as a different way of how their civilization is gonna evolve.
But if nobody had money, then all of those things for that $20,000 robot, then the economies don't work.
And that's the thing, that's why the governments have to introduce universal basic income, so everybody will be able to, and then all the prices of everything goes down because you no longer have to pay an Uber driver, not even a cab driver anymore, an Uber driver, because the cars are autonomous. Your vehicle that you own is going to be, you press a button on your mobile phone and now it becomes a robo taxi that's going around making you money. Your robot actually, yes, you can pay $20,000 or you can pay, they said $500 yesterday. It costs $2 an hour to run. It's going to do all the maintenance. It gives you more time. So that's why I said I bring it back to culture and values. What does success mean? Success means time and freedom. In the Western world, that's what we all work towards. Hey, I own my time. I'm not owned by anybody. I can do what I want when I want. That's success in the Western world. And so we get more time by having these things all done for us. And in the Eastern world, there's different, the different cultures, different measures of success.
Which only reinforces the opportunity for coaching to, in a creative way, help all of that time be used healthfully in a deep, purposeful, values-driven way.
So let me do something here. Oh, go ahead. Finish your sentence. No, finish your thoughts, Andy.
Oh, just who knows how it comes back that coaching could evolve in hearing Johann's version over the next, 10, 20 years, that this need then to have the teachers, to have the coaches, to really support, what do we do with time? How do we use it effectively? How do we reconnect with each other? And, in my world, giving the time to go back to creating that awe and wonder with nature, like all sorts of possibilities could come up.
So let's think about it this way. Go ahead, Johann.
I was going to say there's a story, and I'm going to summarize it. It's usually a 5-minute story. I'm going to summarize it into 1 minute. This man, he goes to let's pick a country. He goes to Mexico, and he goes on a holiday, and he goes out fishing at 6 in the morning. And the guy who's taking him out on the boat says, "Okay, cool, let's go." And they catch a fish, and he catches this big, beautiful fish. They bring it back. They've caught two. And he says, "Hey, so what are you going to do the rest of the day?" Because he's achieved his thing. He caught his fish. He said, "Oh, well, my work is done for the day. I've got my fish. I'm going to go home. I'm going to cook it up, cook breakfast, have a sleep in the afternoon. In the evening, I'm going to go dancing with my family and my friends and chill out with the locals." And he goes, no. Look, it's only 7 o'clock. You've got the whole day ahead of you. What are you doing? You're wasting your whole day. You should now go and do more, catch more fish, sell it at the market, make some money. He goes, what do I do then? He goes, well, after you make that money, you can now hire another boat and another crew and get them to all go fishing. He goes, oh, cool. What do I do then? He goes, now you can have a fleet of boats fishing, and you build it up, and then you can supply all the Walmarts and all the etc. And he goes, what do I do then? He goes, then you can move to New York and you can have a penthouse apartment. He goes, what do you do then? He goes, and then you can finally, sell your company and then come back to Mexico and retire and then go fishing in the morning and then go chill out with your friends in the afternoon, have a nap, and then go dancing at nighttime. So it comes back to your...
just doing work in Africa, and that story is very well told on the difference between cultures. And
Yeah, I call that the story of the Mexican fisherman. So I love it, and I've heard it before, and you did a good job summarizing it. So here's what I want to think about with you guys. All of those things are possible. And the truth is we have become so enamored with an external definition of success, an external of having more things, right? And so we have created the need for busyness to have more money, to have more things. We now look at a possibility in coaching and other industries to say, what if all of the activities that took, like 150 years ago, it took all morning to make breakfast because you had to go do this and do that in order to get the, go milk the cow and do all the things you're going to do to make breakfast. Now it's all in the fridge and you can do it in 10 minutes. This is an exponential extension of that. And yet we have perpetually created more busyness to fill the space. And the observation that I would make is that you can never get enough of what you don't need, because what you don't need won't satisfy you. And so this gets back to the thing you said, Sandy, which is on the essence of who we are as people in any culture. Like that definition of what matters is where we're going to go with this. And whether coaching is, that's why the essence of being to me is so important, because when it stops being the striving for more money, faster, better, what is there to do? And to me, just given my life experience and trajectory and the number of clients that I've worked with, we're built to love and serve each other. And if all of this efficiency allowed Johann and Sandy and Kellan and others to spend time in true connection and love and service, not only would we solve the world's problems with hunger and everything else, we'd fix all of that. And so if you look at it and we pull it all back from Skynet and get rid of all the problems and get back to the question about coaching, the only thing that's going to be left for the 5% of coaches that matter are those who can help the individuals they work with identify and create those things of true meaning and value. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is if we are the embodiment of the things that we teach, because we have walked that path of getting to what's actually important and then being willing to share life as it occurs there. And to me, that, and I'm not saying right, as a possibility that transcends, it gets to the bottom of why. It's because it is in our nature to be creative, to love, and that's why my words are love, create, serve. That's what drives my life, my goal of 300 million in my coaching practice. And the fact that we can make 1 million or 10 million or 50 million is an interesting data point. And the only thing it does for me is it allows me to have a bigger reach to talk to people in Australia and Mexico at the same moment. So when you think about pulling this back to the coaching industry, although I love the speculation about the whole universe, what final thoughts do you have that you would tell someone? Like, I just got off a call with a lady I did not know, who I didn't know this. She'd been binge watching, I don't know how many videos of mine on something or something somewhere. She got a scheduling, she made an appointment, and her big question was, she was thinking about going into coaching and wanted to know what I thought. And she was looking for a nudge as to whether or not that was a good idea. And my answer to her was, don't, unless you're willing to go all in and become the truths that you want to teach. So if you each had a thought about what you would tell coaches to think about for the next year or 2 or 3 about their own place in the industry, how to use this amazing infinite, game-changing tool, what to look out for, what would you say? And I don't care who goes first.
And Sandy first, ladies first.
Well, thank you. Again, I'd ask the question, what does success look like for that person? Is it, I have an old client who called me the other day. How do I get $1 million client? And I said, you know what? I'm not your person, because that's not where my energy is going. Like, my energy is, how am I going to make $1 million difference, $1 billion difference in people's health? But I think, I go back to you saying it used to take all morning to make breakfast, and now you can, make it in a smoothie and a bullet in 30 seconds with as much nutrition, maybe. I think going back to, and this conversation is so inspiring me to say, depending on what coaches want to do, wouldn't it be beautiful to spend all morning making breakfast? Like, how, and I don't mean to, that we have to go get the wheat from the chaff, but how do we have that connection? What do we want life to look like? And then have the financial wherewithal to do that. And if coaches are willing, like you said, to say, what's my gift and creativity, and who's my audience, and how am I going to lean in to be that authentic person, then I'd be like, absolutely. If it's about how can I go out there, because I used to be a janitor and now I'm going to go, help finance, not that they don't have that ability, but I don't know that it's as authentic.
Johann, what do you think?
I think for coaches, they are the ones who have lived it, breathed it, who are all in, as you said. They're going to be the most dangerous people in a good way, because they will be able to make the most amount of impact. People who are threatened by the technology, let's look at a hardware store. It's a drill. But you go into the hardware store, how many different types of drills, how many different types of jobs? It's your brain that'll say, hey, this is what you need, this is why, this is how, this is the examples. And being that trusted person, at the end of the day, there's so many AIs available. They all have different skill sets, but the humans that you trust, they're going to be there with you for the long term. So yeah, be the person who knows it all, and is there to guide the people.
I want to thank both of you for taking time to share your thoughts, and the fact that we wandered off into the future of Skynet, the good version, hopefully not the bad version. That's the name of the sentient AI that took over the world in the Terminator movies, in case anyone's forgotten, Skynet. But anyway, thank you for sharing all of that with me. Johann, thanks for being here today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor.
So
Sandy,
great to meet
thank
you,
you for being here. Yeah, Sandy, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
I
Guys,
appreciate
have a
it.
great evening.
So I want to encourage all of you that are listening to this. You see different perspectives. You see the core of the human experience explored. You see the insane amount of untapped efficiency and capability. And so whether you're a coach or not, and this podcast, the Thursday edition, is mostly for coaches, but even if you're exploring what is the maximum truth of what you want your life to be like, the question Sandy kept raising, we are at the cusp right now of making it available for you to have that thing instead of be it some thing that you think about in the future. I mean, you always created your life. We do that now. But the technology is going to exist that there won't be any more excuses. And so you're going to need to think about what you really want out of life. And I urge you to listen to this a couple of times and explore what things are there that will let you create your ultimate life.
Never hold back and you'll never ask why. Open your heart and this time around.
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to KellanFluckigerMedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, YourUltimateLife.ca. subscribe,
Your feet on the
share.
ground. Stand with your heart in the sky and your feet on the ground.